Hey, so I'm Nate. Welcome to what I hope to is the first of many videos in a series of me practicing refactoring. Um, I think I just want to kind of like do a quick rundown of why I'm doing this, and then we'll get into it. The first reason is I'm a software developer. What I do all day is make changes to code, usually old code, and in various states of test. And a big part of what makes me successful is whether or not I make those changes safely, and whether or not the software ends up in a better place than when it started. And a big um, a big thing in software quality is whether or not the software is easy to change. And I think that often often developers think that they need to block out time to refactor, um, and and that there is a time for refactoring and there's a time for adding features. And my feeling is like refactoring is just part of the process. And the way I like to think about it is kind of with this pithy Kent Beck quote here, that you want to make a change easy before you make a change. And if you keep doing that, if you do that over and over and over again, your software is actually going to increase in quality over time, rather than the default, which is to get chaotic and let entropy take over. So that's why refactoring is really important to me, and it's why I want to be very good at it. The kind of second reason that I'm doing this is going to be a series of me practicing, usually streams of me working on toy problems to increase my skills. The reason that I want to practice is because I want to be one of the best in kind of my field at refactoring. And I think that for the most part, my peers, my colleagues are getting their refactoring skills from performance, and performance is a different thing than practice. And I think that there is a lot to be learned by doing a set of exercises kind of over and over again, and exposing yourself to different situations outside of the context of your work. And so that's why I'm hoping that by practicing refactoring kind of over and over and over again and getting my reps in will make me one of the better refactorers around. And there's this really great blog post by Dan Liu, who has a lot of really great blog posts about becoming or getting to the 95th percentile in any given field, and how it actually isn't that hard when you take a look at it. And a couple of the things he calls out in this blog post, which he kind of covers getting into the 95th percentile of Overwatch, of programming, and of giving presentations. And it basically comes down to whether or not you're putting in focused practice and fixing basic beginner mistakes. And he has another great blog post about how he achieved a very high rank in a game called Overwatch, just by kind of focusing in on practicing and fixing basic mistakes. And so that's the kind of thing I'd like to do for myself in practicing refactoring. And then I guess that leads me to kind of, let me explain why I want to stream. The thing that I want to make sure that I do is have a high fidelity record of every session of practice that I have. That way I can reflect and spot where I'm making basic mistakes, and then I can fix those. And hopefully that this cycle of practicing for about an hour is what I'm hoping to do, and then reflecting later on that hour will let me level up really quickly in terms of refactoring skills. The other advantage of streaming is if I record it and turn it into some kind of presentation thing, I'm never going to get it out the door. So by streaming it, there's this kind of like transient nature to streaming that is going to force me to just put in the work rather than fiddling around with recording stuff and trying to make some sort of perfect movie. Which leads me to getting after it here. The first kind of practice round that I want to do is with this practice project called the Gilded Rose. And we've used, or at a previous gig, I often use the Gilded Rose as an interview question. Basically, what the Gilded Rose is it's a programming problem where you're handed a bunch of usually very ugly code with minimal or no testing, and you're supposed to, within a couple hours, add a feature to that code. And it's got this kind of World of Warcraft aesthetic to it, but basically you have an inventory system in which a bunch of different rules for how items are priced, and you have to add a new item, the conjured item, and often when you jump into this problem, what you're first going to look at is kind of the existing code, and you notice like there's a lot of nested if statements, and it's kind of gnarly, and if you look at the tests here, like they're basically non-existent. And so making sure that you add that new item or this new set of rules without breaking the existing code, you've got to do a bunch of refactoring. And so that's what I'm going to work through here in the next hour or so. I'm going to be using IntelliJ just because it has automated refactoring tools built into it. It's not because I'm a big... I'm actually not very good with IntelliJ, and I'm sure that'll show through in this video. But the automated refactoring tooling that it has across all the different languages it supports is kind of second to none, and so I want to make sure that I'm using the right tools. Okay, that was enough rambling. Let's get into it. I'm just going to start by setting a 60-minute timer. Hopefully this will be enough to make a significant dent into the problem. I'm going to try to do this as naively as possible. I want to, at the end of the day, the way I want to be able to approach any piece of code is I want to be able to refactor it to understand it, not understand it in order to refactor it. And so I'm going to be approaching this code and any code in the future very naively, because that's often the situation that you're going to be in when you're at work. And so, yeah, let's do this. All right. First of all, just to get started, I know this is like style stuff, and it doesn't necessarily matter, but I do want to make sure that I end up with something that's like a little less or a little more stylish than what we would usually get. Okay, so let me see. Looks like my project's actually not set up correctly. So there are, oh, there's no SDK set. So there's some kind of screw up in my, oh, SDK, Gilded Rose. Okay, I use Nix, and so sometimes things get a little funky. And I had hoped that this would be okay. Okay, I think we're good. It's probably just going to take a minute for IntelliJ to see everything that it needs to see, but we'll be able to run the tests in a second. All right. So let's run this with coverage to begin with. Let's see. Well, let's run it without coverage. Looks like it failed, but I don't see the panel. Maybe my configurations are screwed up. See, this is the trouble with IntelliJ. It takes a bunch of, okay, so I think you want this activate tool in window. All right, third time's the charm. Let's run it with coverage. All right, so there we go. It says expected fix me got foo. All right, well, foo is what it does, so let's just do that. Let's get auto test going here. Bump it. And it does not change the name. That's a, so that's set up, exercise, and verify. So that's usually, I like to do like a 4-phase test. And this is the 4 phases being set up, exercise, assert, and then tear down. The like mnemonic for that is seat, which I never use, but fix, test. All right. I don't know how to close that automatically. I should. Okay, so we have this, we pass in these items, update quality. Let's get the other window in here. Let's actually get it vertically. We'll close out of this. Of course, I press Command Q by accident. Hey, so this is the kind of rookie mistake that I'm talking about. Like, I'm using a keyboard that I'm still getting used to a keyboard that I purchased a while ago, an Ergodox EZ. It is a split layout, and I've customized it a bit, but it's still pretty strange to me. And you know, it's gonna take some practice to get used to. So let's try this again, running it with coverage, and let's just see where we get. Okay, so there's like a ton here that hasn't been hit. Like somehow the sell-in. Oh, okay. So this toString isn't even being populated, which is pretty interesting. But let's try. Let me think about how I want to start here. Um, Perhaps it'd be worth going over. Actually, it's probably not worth thinking about the new feature yet. Where we want to get to, though, is like there's this new kind of item. I think it's like a conjured items. They degrade in quality twice as fast as normal items. That's not really relevant because like we don't know what quality means. We don't know what selling means. We don't know what foo means. Like we don't know what any of this stuff means yet. But what we can do is think about getting some coverage around this. So we want to see no red lines. I just want to see green all the way through. And best way to do that is to just start looking at these branch conditions and start passing those as input into the function. So we know we get these items. What we can say here is let's turn this into like a parameterized test. And we can just say name, sell-in, quality. So if we do this instead here, so we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this. So this is just gonna get, I'm just trying to get coverage here. We should get passing again. Oh yeah, and actually we want like the cross product of all of these. I think that is the method in Ruby to get a cross product. All right. So we're still hitting the same amount of stuff. Actually, a tool that I know will help here is something called approvals. I don't care here what the actual output is. Like, I'm not here to understand the code yet, but I do want to make sure that as I refactor, the behavior of the code never changes. And so I'm going to pull in something called approvals. And it should help us all right. I don't actually know how it works, so I'm gonna have to let's cancel the auto test for now. Let's add approvals and see if we can get it installed. Take a sip. Oh, no Kogiri. No Kogiri is probably gonna have a bad time. The reason it's gonna have a bad time is it usually is looking for libxml. It compiles a C extension against libxml, and Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I have to provide it with a specific version of the headers. I feel like we're probably not going to get that far this time around, but this is good because at least I can see where I'm screwing up. It's probably not going to make for very entertaining YouTube, though. I'm not used to talking this much either, so I think my voice is gonna go. How much time we got here? Oh, still plenty. I'm literally waiting for the code to compile. Okay, so actually while we're here, let's just read how we write an approvals test. Yeah, so we'll probably want to do this like verify block. And because this update quality actually spits out an item with a toString, we can probably just base it off of this toString method. So what I can do is, it looks like it actually mutates the item objects themselves. So I'll pass in a bunch of items as input. Yeah, so no Hugiri failed, but I'll talk about that in a minute. So, right, I'll pass in a bunch of items as input, and then I'll call update quality, and then I will do like an array, maybe like a JSON array. It looks like it supports some kind of JSON array thing. And then that will, what that will do is, okay, let me take a step back and explain approvals. Approvals are a way of ensuring that the code that's under tests behavior doesn't change as you do some pretty severe refactoring. And that is like literally the definition of refactoring is changing the structure of the code without changing its behavior. And so approvals give you this kind of safety net around code that is otherwise something you probably don't understand. And the way it does that is it takes your code, you pass it some input, you take the output of that code and save it to a file. And then approvals will diff the output of your code against the output saved in the file. And if your diff, if there is a diff, then you've changed the behavior somehow. Or you've added or you've covered a new path in the code and you're getting more output out. And I'll show you kind of like what that looks like too. One of the things I'm not sure about is how the diffing is going to interact with IntelliJ. It would be really nice if it was like wired right up to IntelliJ's diffing tool, which is pretty slick, but it's probably not going to be. So let's deal with everybody's favorite build issues. Okay, so we need this gem install use system libraries. So let me pull this up in terminal. Gem install no actually bundle config local build dot no code Giri. Probably gonna say actually, which, so I have it in, I kind of want it in my local project. I think it's libxmlt dev actually. So yeah, so that's what we want. It's going to link into the Nix store rather than into my global profile. I'm not going to talk much more about Nix, but it does make kind of project isolation really easy. So build .nokogiri with, what was the error message in IntelliJ again? With XML to config, oh, and that's actually use system libraries. That equals, and I should have it in my path. And this should be pretty quick. The only other thing might be libxslt. Yeah. It's super depressing that every Ruby gem requires nokogiri. What was the other possibility here? Oh, it needs package config? Nah. I think you can pass in the XSLT config thing too. Okay, so let's get XSLT config into the next shell here. Two? Maybe it's two. Yeah. Oh, undefined variable. Okay, good. So what did it want with XSLT config? Okay. I just want to make sure. I'll hash R to make sure that the path cache is okay. And with XSLT config. Okay. I think this is going to work. It's crazy how much work this takes just to get this gem installed, but this is the price I pay for wanting reproducible project environments. Is first you have to produce them. All right, it's looking good. It was looking good. Oh, we need rake. Fancy that. Should probably have rake in its gem file if it needs it, or its gem spec if it needs it. That might be something that we can contribute to the approvals project. It's probably something that not many people come across because rake's so pervasive, but okay, let's get back to installing approvals. That can be done. So we add that to our spec helper, which we do not have yet, but we can add it. Oh, you actually don't configure it with through the approvals object. You do it through the RSpec object. It's kind of goofy, but is there? Oh, there's a default. I don't think you need to configure it at all, which is wonderful. Let's go back. Let's get some of this craft out of the way. Get the production code in front of our face here, and it does stuff. That's what we want to do. Actually, let's roll this file back. Cool. And we still want to run it with coverage. We want to make sure it's auto test is on. Okay, so we're all green. Let's get approvals running inside this. There was mention of a verify block. So okay. What I'm trying to what I want to verify at the end is this Gilded Rose items. And we're going to say Gilded Rose is equal to Gilded, basically, new items is going to equal some array. Let's make it this array right now. And we're going to update quality. Okay, I'm unmuted, I think. We're going to require spec helper. Hopefully that's on the load path. I don't want to do much more in terms of... Okay, items is not a method on Gilded Rose. That's super interesting. That's probably something that we can just add the adder reader for. I don't think this is going to be it's technically not refactoring. Okay, so the approval file is not found. Spec fixtures, approvals, Gilded Rose, update quality, does stuff. Okay, so these are approved files. So how do you get them in there, do you think? Oh, okay. So you move received to approved. That's kind of neat. So what, it should be in here, right? Okay, so this is actually going to be really informative because I don't know what this file looks like. that's not too bad. I think we can do better just because we already have this 2s method. I think we can just map. Okay, so it looks like that. So it's the name, looks like the sell-in and the quality in a row. That is good. Let's do something interesting here though. Like, let's not use this foo name because we've already tested that up here. We already got a test for that up here. Let's do like hbrie. Let's use that same string from the condition. There we go. So we can see that in the approves. And what we can do now is there is this like CLI for approving things. I realize I've now added a lot of tools to the project, but you do approvals verify. Okay. And yeah, I mean, that's what we want, right? Okay, so that's pretty slick, I think. It would, like I said, it would be nice if this was all worked right into IntelliJ, but maybe one day. That'd be a pretty useful thing to hook into the tool belt. Let's unstage the spec helper for now. I want to make sure that coverage is in my git ignore here. Because I don't actually need it. And then I don't know what this approvals file is. Maybe it's some configuration file or something. But I think we can just add the rest. Yep. Let's take a look here, and we'll just call this add approvals. All right, so this is like a very awkward start, but I think we're off to the races here. Let's start adding in some more. Okay, so we got an aged brie. There's also this backstage passes thing. Actually, we hit that, there's these zeros. So let's actually do something where we're gonna take the name, we're gonna do a product, or we're gonna take our names, we're gonna take our sell-ins, we're gonna take our qualities, and our items are going to be a product of all, or like the Cartesian product of all those things. So to start with, just so that we keep it real here, we'll start with aged brie, and we'll start with a sell-in of 0, and we'll start with a quality of 0. And we're actually going to map This is going to look a lot like what I tried to do at first. I don't know about these ligatures. So we're going to say name, selin. I don't know if you need this kind of destructuring in more recent versions of Ruby, but we're going to map here, and it's going to map to an item. There might even be, like, I don't know if you can just take the method object and call it, but anyway, let's take a peek here. Yeah, we're good. Approval is verified. So cool. Now we can like easily add new cases. So let's do. So we have aged brie, which is fine. It looks like we have this 0. Let's get like around that, right? And then so that's weird. Let's see where we. So we got aged brie with. Yeah, we're just gonna keep improving. Like, we don't actually care right now because we're just trying to get coverage. So we have aged brie. We need this sulfurous named item. So let's just copy, paste that. Okay. Surprised though that it looks like the, okay, so if the name is not sulfurous, name is aged brie. These are useful. Let's get this backstage passes thing in here too. Oh, it's that our selin, I put a 0, 1, and -0. So let's just back this change out right now, and get some quality stuff. So we want -1, 0, and 1 for quality, and that should get us into this branch here. We should see green. So we do see green. The item named not sulfurous. It's interesting that that's not getting hit. Because we are passing in aged brie. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Qualities, we also have this like 50, so let's get 49, 50, 51 in there. It's also possible that the approvals stuff is just not happy, you know? We have the selin of 11, so let's try to get 10, 11, and 12 here. You can see, like, we're actually generating a lot of cases here. We can, I wonder if there's like a, if I do a command R, I don't know if that'll work. Recent tests? Oh, Okay, so we're good. We're green. It's weird that we're not hitting this line, though. So let's think about this. So if the item's name is not aged brie, okay, so it's not aged brie, and the item's name is not backstage passes, and the item name is not sulfurous. Okay, so there must be a different name in there, right? We've got sulfurous, backstage passes, aged pre. It's interesting. So let's add in food. I think I think that's the only thing that's going to hit that line. Yeah, so we did. We hit that line. I'm going to prove it. We seem to have hit almost everything. I just want to make sure that we're around those boundaries on sell-ins and quality. So quality, we have -1, 0, and 1. Quality, we have 49, 50, 51. Sell-in, we have 10, 11, 12. That'll match that. Quality, we have 49, 50, 51. Sell-in, 6. So I do want to make sure that we're around that. There's something about the integration here of the Ruby coverage data and IntelliJ that I don't trust, because it's not showing me branch coverage, right? The other thing, sell-in is 0, so we should probably cover the -1 case. I always like to hit either side. Quality, we've already got around 0. Quality, we've already got around 50. So I think we're hitting every one of these cases. You know, we've got foo, aged brie. We've got a whole bunch of junk in here. Foo is a dumb name. It might be worth taking a look to see if there's one that makes sense from the README. No, there isn't. Okay. So, just to get this rocking, we're gonna approve that, and we'll just rerun it just to see it green. Okay, so now we have 100% test coverage. It says file. I would love to see branch. I don't know if maybe there is branch. No, they don't give branch coverage. That's something that I would like to look into for next time. It's branch coverage from the idea integration with SimpleCov. You'd think it'd come for free. It's something that you'd get in Java land for sure. All right. We do actually commit that approval deal. I can stop running this with coverage because it doesn't need, I just don't need the coverage statistics anymore now that I have the approval suite doing 100% coverage. I can, for a little bit of speed up, I can run this without. Okay, we're going to set that auto test back on. I'm actually not really worried about that right now. Like the not really worried about the test anymore because I have full coverage. I'm just going to be doing refactoring. And so I can make these little stylistic changes. No problem. Okay, items.each. So actually, let's just say oh, crazy. I wonder if the original project had Windows carriage returns. Maybe. So the thing that we want to get refactored is this, the body of this loop, which is probably here. And I imagine that we can use some factor this. Can we extract it to a method? It can be private for sure. I don't know what to call it yet. So, but I do know it needs to exist. So that's very interesting that they did that. I didn't even see the test run, but okay, so it's very fast. It's very interesting that they use the method object and then call it as a proc. I'm like not super happy with that, but let's go with it. It's also very I wonder if IntelliJ itself is doing that. That'd be super annoying, but maybe that's something we can fix. It's definitely something I can look up next time because it's slowing me down this time. I'm just going to write that down in my notebook here. So what we want to do is start to like pull out some of these if statements. And one of the ways you can do this, I'm kind of cheating. I watched a talk that Luan Felco gave at CraftConf in 2017 or something, where he basically used this approach to the Gilded Rose kata, and what he did was he tackled this like, you've got all these nested if statements, you need to start pulling them out case by case, but like how do you do that safely, right? And like how do you do that without even understanding the code? And the way that he did it was really interesting, I thought, and so I'm going to try that here. I think what I need is for coverage to guide me. So even though I thought we could get away with no coverage, I actually think we need the test coverage runner so that we can get these gutter markers of things that are getting covered or not. So what you actually do here is we have this applesauce method, right? Let's do something where I actually really don't like this. applesauce the items. I don't know. Okay, so we're gonna applesauce each item. One thing we can do is I was hoping that we could just convert this block automatically to a do end block, but we can't. TIL. Okay, so we have this applesauce method, right? And what we want to do is we want to start pulling out these different conditional dealies. And the way to do that is to introduce a conditional here. And the conditional can just be, it doesn't need to be exactly the same as the conditional inside, but we do want to see, like, I got 100% coverage, so let's like use it. And what we're gonna do, this is a little more error prone than I would like, is we're just, oh, see what I mean? I would like here to just duplicate it in both sides. And the reason that you do that is because once you have that, you're gonna get a bunch of red. And so we know, like, this code isn't run anymore. So we can just delete that. And this code isn't run. Let's let it go through this deal. We know that this code isn't run, so we can delete that. We know that this code isn't run, so we can delete that. We know that all this code isn't run, so we can delete that. And you just kind of prune out things this way. And so all of this is green still, right? Oh, this isn't green. So we're just going to delete that, right? And we can start to take a look at stuff like this isn't run, this is always run. And so what we can do, maybe there's a refactor for this. Okay. So we can take this, we can replace this with it. And this is run, but it doesn't do anything. It's an empty if, right? So this is run. This is an empty if. So we can just lift that up. And you can kind of see sort of the procedure here. Like, I don't know if there are any other empty bodies here. Yeah, so there's this empty else. Let me think about this. If there is no else, then, and this is always run, I think we can do that. Okay, so we're still good, we're green. And we've pulled the HBRE conditional right up. Man, that bugs me. That control or line feed error message really is bothering me. All right, so we have this aged brie deal. What else can we do? We can do we can do item.name. Let's just do this guy right here, right? All right, and so we don't need that, we don't need that, we don't need that. This is bad, so we can just do that. We don't need that, which means we don't need that. We don't need that, which means we don't need that. Don't need that. Hit this. Crazy. So I've done something wrong here. Let's just revert. Okay, we're back in a working state. What I was hoping to do is pull the next item name conditional out. I think the best way to do that the thing that I'm missing here is how to do this refactoring safely. So there is this kind of early return portion of the refactoring that I'm forgetting. And it's possible that it's possible that it's necessary for this refactoring to be 100% safe. Like I said, I'm trying to approach this naively and trying to be as mechanical as possible about it. I don't really want to use my brain. I just want to rely on my tools to get the structure of the code into the place I want it. I'm not gonna stop here, but I am gonna take another crack at the sulfurous thing. So this actually isn't safe, right? So So one way of doing making this safe is saying else if item name doesn't equal age breed. I always forget that my Vim shortcuts aren't going to work here. That actually should break. Okay, good. So this should pass. Crazy. Because it is equivalent to the code before. Let me see if we can, okay, so we formatted the code. Okay, so is there, oh, crazy. So there's a syntax error? Yeah. It's such a drag that I don't know what's going on here. But what I'm gonna need to figure out for the next one is how to copy into my paste buffer all of the code inside of the enclosing block. So like I should be able to copy all of the code inside this else block with a single kind of keystroke or key combination. And then I should be able to do something like this. So, okay, let me give this one more shot. So that's the end of that. Okay. Should be able to go here and then say else if item.name doesn't equal aged breed. And that should be a no op, right? Because we've taken the else condition. Yes, okay, finally, okay. So we've taken the else condition and we've just made it explicit. And then we've copied the body into both the plain else branch and this else if equivalent. What we can do now though is we can change this item.name into the sulfurous. Let's see what happens here. We should get some red. Okay, so we get a lot of red here. This is good. We've got that is empty or missed, so that can go away. So that can go away. So this can be lifted up, and that is going to be a totally safe refactor. How? All right. Well, that was it for the first round. I'm going to commit the code and put it up on GitHub. It obviously didn't go as well as I thought it would. There are some development environment stuff that I just didn't account for. I also don't know certain key combos. And there's something important, there's a refactoring, there's an important step in the refactoring I was trying to do, this lifting and peeling out of the conditionals, that I have missed. And so I'm hopeful that by my next practice video, I'll have a better understanding of that. I think I'm going to do the same problem, and hopefully it just goes better next time. If you are watching this, thanks very much. And if you have any comments or tips or any questions, I guess put them in the comments and I will follow up for sure. Have a good one.